Most people will live their entire lives reacting to circumstances, reacting to other people, reacting to problems they never saw coming. But you are here because you sense there is another way. There is. In the next 90 minutes, you will learn the exact principles that separate the truly effective from everyone else. This is not about quick fixes. This is about rewiring the way you think, decide, and act. Your transformation begins now. Chapter 1. The Power of Ownership. Why your life is your responsibility. There is a question that will determine the trajectory of your entire life. It is not a question about your circumstances. It is not a question about your past. It is a question about your mind. Here it is. Do you believe that you are the author of your own life? Or do you believe that life is something that simply happens to you? Your answer to this question changes everything. Most people live in a state of reaction. They wake up and immediately check their phones. They respond to emails. They put out fires. They handle emergencies. By the end of the day, they are exhausted. But here is the strange part. They cannot point to a single meaningful thing they accomplished. They were busy, they were stressed, they were in motion, but they were not in control. This is the reactive life. And it is a trap that captures millions of intelligent, capable, well-meaning people. The reactive person operates from a simple and dangerous belief. That belief is this: external forces control my internal state. When traffic is bad, they become angry. When a coworker is rude, they become resentful. When the economy struggles, they become hopeless. Their emotions, their energy, and their actions are dictated entirely by what is happening around them. They have handed the remote control of their life to the outside world, and they do not even realize it. Now consider a different way of living. Consider the person who operates from ownership. This person understands a profound truth. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a space. In that space lies your power. In that space lies your freedom. In that space lies your ability to choose. This is what it means to be proactive. Being proactive is not about being aggressive. It is not about being pushy. It is not about ignoring your emotions. Being proactive means recognizing that you are responsible for your own life. The word responsible is important here. Break it down. Response. Able. You're able to choose your response no matter what happens. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps. He lost his family. He lost his freedom. He was stripped of every physical comfort and dignity. And yet, in the midst of unimaginable horror, he made a discovery. He discovered that his captors could control his environment. They could control his body. They could inflict pain and suffering. But they could not control his mind. They could not control how he chose to interpret his experience. They could not control the meaning he assigned to his suffering. Frankl wrote that the last of human freedoms is the ability to choose your attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is the ultimate expression of ownership. If a man in a concentration camp can choose his response, what excuse do any of us have? Here is the uncomfortable truth. You are where you are because of the choices you've made. Not entirely. Of course, there are factors outside your control. But far more than you want to admit, your current situation is the accumulation of your past decisions. The career you have, the relationships you have built, the health you experience, the skills you possess, all of these are in large part the fruit of your choices. This is not meant to shame you. This is meant to liberate you. Because if your choices created your current reality, then your choices can create a new one. Reactive people use a certain kind of language. Listen for it, and you will hear it everywhere. I cannot do anything about it. That is just the way I am. He makes me so angry. I have to do this. Do you hear the powerlessness in these phrases? Do you hear the surrender? The reactive person speaks as though they are a victim of forces beyond their control, and because they speak this way, they think this way, and because they think this way, they live this way. Proactive people use different language. Let me look at my options. I can choose a different approach. I control my feelings. I choose to do this. This is not just semantics. This is a fundamental shift in how you see yourself in relation to the world. The proactive person speaks as the agent of their own life, and because they speak this way, they begin to act this way, and their results reflect it. There is a concept that makes this even clearer. Imagine two circles. The larger circle contains everything you care about: your health, your family, your job, the economy, politics, the weather, world events. This is your circle of concern. Inside it is a smaller circle. This smaller circle contains the things you can actually influence: your own actions, your own words, your own preparation, your own attitude. This is your circle of influence. Here is what separates the effective from the ineffective. Reactive people focus on their circle of concern. They spend their mental energy worrying about things they cannot change. They complain about the government. They stress about what other people think. They obsess over circumstances outside their control, and their circle of influence shrinks because they are not investing in it. Proactive people focus on their circle of influence. They pour their energy into what they can actually affect. They work on their own skills. They improve their own responses. They take initiative where they have power. And something remarkable happens. Their circle of influence expands. They gain more control, more options, more impact. This is the paradox. When you try to control what you cannot control, you lose control of yourself. When you focus only on what you can control, your overall control increases. Let us make this practical. Today, something will happen that you did not plan for. Someone will say something that bothers you. Something will go wrong. A plan will fall apart. In that moment, you will have a choice. You can react, you can blame, you can complain, or you can pause, you can breathe, you can ask yourself a powerful question. What can I do right now that is within my control? That question is your gateway to freedom. Ownership is not a burden, it is a gift. Because the moment you take full responsibility for your life, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for circumstances to change. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You realize that you are the one you've been waiting for. This is the foundation of everything that follows. Every principle in this audiobook rests on this truth. You must be proactive. You must own your choices. You must accept that your life is shaped from the inside out, not from the outside in. The world is full of people waiting for conditions to be perfect, waiting for the right time, waiting for motivation to strike, waiting for fear to disappear. They will wait forever. Because the conditions will never be perfect, and while they wait, their lives slip away. Do not be one of them. Decide today that you are the master of your fate. Decide today that no circumstance, no person, no event will determine your inner state. Decide today that you are the author, and then pick up the pen. Chapter 2. Begin with the end in mind. The art of personal vision. Imagine you're attending a funeral. You walk into the room, you see the flowers, you hear the soft music, you notice friends and family gathered together, and then you realize something. This is your funeral. You're witnessing your own memorial service 3 years from now. 4 people will speak today. The first is a member of your family, a spouse, a child, a parent, or a sibling. The second is a friend, someone who knows you deeply and personally. The third is a colleague, someone from your professional life. The fourth is someone from your community, perhaps from a church, a volunteer organization, or a neighborhood group. Here is the question that will change your life. What do you want each of these people to say about you? What words do you want them to use? What memories do you want them to share? What difference do you want to have made in their lives? Take a moment. This is not a morbid exercise. This is the most clarifying exercise you will ever do, because when you imagine the end of your life, you discover what truly matters. You cut through the noise. You see past the trivial. You recognize what you actually value, and from that place you can begin to live with intention. This is the principle of beginning with the end in mind. It means starting every day, every project, every relationship with a clear vision of your destination. It means knowing what you are building before you lay the first brick. It means defining success on your own terms before the world defines it for you. Most people do not do this. Most people climb the ladder of success only to discover it is leaning against the wrong wall. They work hard, they achieve, they accumulate, and then one day they wake up and feel empty. They have everything they were supposed to want, but they do not have what they actually need. This is the tragedy of living without vision. There is a powerful truth embedded in the way things are created. Everything is created twice. First, there is a mental creation. Then there is a physical creation. Think about a house. Before a single nail is hammered, the house exists in the mind of the architect. There are blueprints, there are plans, there is a vision. Only after the mental creation is complete does the physical creation begin. Your life works the same way. Whether you realize it or not, you are always creating your life twice. The question is whether you are doing the first creation consciously, or whether you are letting others do it for you. If you do not define your own vision, you will live out someone else's. You will absorb the goals of your parents. You will chase the expectations of society. You will pursue the metrics of success that advertising has planted in your mind, and you will wonder why achievement feels hollow. Beginning with the end in mind requires you to examine your deepest values. What do you believe? What principles will you refuse to compromise? What kind of person do you want to become? These are not easy questions, but they are essential questions, because your values are the foundation of your vision. Without them, you are building on sand. Here is a practical tool that will anchor your life. It is called a personal mission statement. A personal mission statement is a written declaration of who you are and what you stand for. It describes the person you want to be. It defines the contributions you want to make. It captures the principles that guide your decisions. This is not a corporate slogan. This is not something you write in 10 minutes and forget. A true personal mission statement takes deep thought. It requires reflection. It demands honesty. And once it is written, it becomes your constitution. It becomes the standard against which you measure every choice. Consider how powerful this is. When you have a clear mission, decisions become simpler. Opportunities come to you constantly. Some are good, some are great. Some are distractions dressed as opportunities. Without a mission, you say yes to everything and spread yourself thin. With a mission, you can evaluate each opportunity against your deeper purpose. Does this align with who I want to become? Does this move me toward my ultimate vision? If the answer is no, you can decline without guilt. Beginning with the end in mind also transforms how you set goals. Most people set goals based on what they think they should want. More money, a bigger house, a higher title. These goals are not wrong, but they are incomplete, because they focus only on having. They neglect being and doing. Effective goals flow from your vision of who you want to be. First, you clarify your identity. Then you set goals that express that identity. The goal is not just to have more. The goal is to become more. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone whose mission centers on being a devoted parent. Their vision is to raise children who are confident, compassionate, and resilient. From this vision, goals naturally emerge. Be present for dinner 5 nights a week. Have one meaningful conversation with each child every day. Create a weekly family tradition that builds connection. These goals are not arbitrary. They are expressions of a deeper purpose, and because they are rooted in vision, they carry motivational power that surface goals never have. Here is another dimension of this principle. Beginning with the end in mind applies to every role you play. You're not just one thing. You're a professional, you're a family member, you're a friend, you're a community member, you're an individual with personal needs and growth. Each of these roles matters, and each deserves a vision. What kind of professional do you want to be? Not just what title do you want. What reputation do you want to build? What impact do you want to have on your industry, your team, your clients? What do you want colleagues to say about working with you? What kind of family member do you want to be? How do you want your spouse to describe you? What do you want your children to remember about their childhood with you? What legacy do you want to leave in your family line? When you have a vision for each role, you can live with balance. You can ensure that success in one area does not come at the cost of failure in another. You can make trade-offs consciously rather than by default. There is one final aspect of this principle that must be addressed. Beginning with the end in mind requires courage. It takes courage to define your own path. It takes courage to reject the expectations that do not fit you. It takes courage to admit that some of your current goals are not truly yours. You may discover that you have been chasing something you do not actually want. That is painful, but it is also liberating, because now you can redirect. Now you can choose. Now you can build a life that is authentically yours. The cemetery is full of unfulfilled potential, full of dreams never pursued, full of visions never articulated, full of people who spent their lives reacting rather than creating. Do not join them. Take time this week to begin crafting your personal mission statement. Ask yourself the hard questions. What do I want to be remembered for? What principles will I never violate? What does a meaningful life look like to me? Write your answers down, revise them, refine them, let them guide you. Because when you know where you're going, every step has purpose. When you know who you want to become, every decision is a vote for that identity. When you begin with the end in mind, you stop drifting and you start building. Chapter 3. Put first things first. The discipline of execution. You now understand two powerful truths. First, you are responsible for your life. You have the power to choose your response to any situation. Second, you must begin with a clear vision. You must know what you are building before you start. But knowledge alone changes nothing. You can know what matters and still spend your days on what does not. This chapter is about closing that gap. This chapter is about execution. There is a question that reveals everything about how you live. Here it is. What is one thing you could do regularly that you are not currently doing that would make a tremendous positive difference in your life? You already know the answer. You have known it for a long time. Maybe it is exercise. Maybe it is connecting with someone you love. Maybe it is strategic thinking for your business. Maybe it is learning a new skill. You know this thing would change your life, and yet you do not do it. Why? The answer is simple and uncomfortable. You have not made it a priority. You have allowed urgent things to crowd out important things. You have been busy, but not effective, and there is a world of difference between the two. Let me introduce you to a framework that will transform how you spend your time. Imagine a matrix with 4 quadrants. On one axis, we have urgency. Things are either urgent or not urgent. On the other axis, we have importance. Things are either important or not important. This gives us 4 categories. Quadrant 1 contains things that are both urgent and important. These are crises, emergencies, pressing deadlines, problems that demand immediate attention. A medical emergency is Quadrant 1. A project due tomorrow is Quadrant 1. An angry client who needs resolution now is Quadrant 1. You cannot ignore Quadrant 1. These things must be handled. But here is the danger. Some people live entirely in Quadrant 1. They move from crisis to crisis. They are always putting out fires. They feel important because everything feels urgent, but they are exhausted, burned out, reactive. Quadrant 3 contains things that are urgent but not important. This is where most people lose their lives. The phone rings. You answer it. An email arrives. You respond immediately. Someone drops by your office. You give them your time. Interruptions. Meetings that could have been emails. Other people's minor priorities. These things feel pressing because they are in your face, but they do not move you toward your goals. They do not align with your mission. They are urgent to someone, but they are not important to you. Quadrant 4 contains things that are neither urgent nor important. This is escape. Mindless scrolling, excessive television, busy work that accomplishes nothing. This is where people go to hide from the stress of Quadrant 1. It feels like rest, but it is not restorative. It is avoidance disguised as relaxation. Now we come to the most important quadrant of all, Quadrant 2. This quadrant contains things that are important but not urgent, and this is where the magic happens. What lives in Quadrant 2? Prevention, planning, relationship building, personal development, exercise, strategic thinking, preparation, values clarification, true recreation that restores your energy. These activities do not scream for your attention. They will not interrupt you. They will not create a crisis if you ignore them today. And that is precisely why most people ignore them. But here is the truth that effective people understand. Quadrant 2 is where you build a great life. When you invest in prevention, you have fewer crises. When you invest in planning, you execute more smoothly. When you invest in relationships, you have support when you need it. When you invest in personal development, you increase your capacity to contribute. Quadrant 2 activities make everything else easier. The tragedy is that Quadrant 2 gets the leftovers. People say they will exercise after they finish their work. They say they will spend quality time with family on the weekend. They say they will read that book when things calm down. But things never calm down. There are always more urgent demands, and Quadrant 2 waits, and eventually the consequences arrive. The person who never exercises faces a health crisis. Now it is Quadrant 1. The person who neglects their marriage faces a relationship crisis. Now it is quadrant 1. The person who never develops their skills faces a career crisis. Now it is quadrant 1. What could have been prevented through quadrant 2 investment becomes a quadrant 1 emergency. This is not wisdom. This is negligence. Putting first things first means organizing your life around quadrant 2. It means scheduling your priorities rather than prioritizing your schedule. It means deciding in advance what matters most and protecting time for it. Here is a practical approach that will change how you plan. Do not start with your schedule. Start with your roles. You have multiple roles in life. You might be a professional, a parent, a spouse, a community member, a person with health and personal development needs. Each week, identify 1 or 2 important goals for each role. These goals should come from quadrant 2. They should align with your mission and vision. Then, schedule time for these goals before anything else fills your calendar. This is a fundamentally different approach than most people take. Most people look at their calendar and try to squeeze important things into the gaps. But there are no gaps. The urgent will always expand to fill available space. You must block time for quadrant 2 first. Then let everything else fit around it. This requires saying no. And this is where many people struggle. It is easy to say no to things that are clearly bad. It is hard to say no to things that are good but not best. Every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. When you say yes to an unimportant meeting, you are saying no to strategic thinking. When you say yes to another hour of work, you might be saying no to your child's bedtime routine. Effective people have learned to say no gracefully but firmly. They say no to the good so they can say yes to the best. There is another dimension to putting first things first. It is the dimension of integrity. Integrity means living in alignment with your values. It means keeping promises to yourself. When you schedule time for quadrant 2 and then abandon it when something urgent appears, you break a promise to yourself. Do this enough times and you stop trusting yourself. You stop believing that your commitments to yourself matter. This erosion of self-trust is devastating. On the other hand, when you honor your quadrant 2 commitments, something powerful happens. You build self-respect. You prove to yourself that your priorities matter. You become a person of integrity. And this transforms how you show up in every area of life. Putting first things first also requires weekly and daily planning. Each week, take time to review your roles and set your quadrant 2 goals. Each day, take a few minutes to identify your most important tasks. Ask yourself, what is the one thing I must accomplish today to make this a successful day? Do that thing first, before email, before meetings, before the urgent takes over. This simple discipline will multiply your effectiveness. There is a principle that governs productivity. It is this: the key is not to prioritize what is on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Read that again. Most people manage their time poorly because they approach it backwards. They let the schedule dictate priorities. Effective people let priorities dictate the schedule. You have the same 24 hours as everyone else. You cannot manage time. Time marches forward regardless of what you do. What you can manage is yourself. You can manage your choices. You can manage your focus. You can manage your commitments. The gap between knowing and doing is discipline. Discipline is choosing what you want most over what you want now. Discipline is honoring future you by making wise choices today. Discipline is the bridge between vision and reality. You have a vision for your life. You know what matters. Now you must execute. Put first things first, every single day. Chapter 4. Think win-win. The mindset of mutual benefit. We have spent 3 chapters focused on you, your responsibility, your vision, your priorities. This was necessary. You cannot build meaningful relationships until you have built a meaningful self. You cannot give what you do not have. But now we shift. Now we move from private victory to public victory. Now we explore how effective people interact with others. Every human interaction presents a choice. Most people do not realize they are making this choice, but they are. Every time you negotiate, collaborate, or even have a simple conversation, you are operating from a paradigm. That paradigm shapes everything. It shapes what you say, what you hear, what you expect, what you offer. And there are several paradigms to choose from. The first paradigm is win-lose. This is the competitive mindset. For me to succeed, you must fail. For me to get a bigger piece, your piece must shrink. Life is a zero-sum game, and I intend to win. This paradigm dominates much of society. We see it in sports, in business, in politics, even in families. Someone must be on top, someone must be on the bottom, and we fight to make sure we are on top. Win-lose is deeply embedded in many people from childhood. Think about how we raise children. Grades are curved, so your success comes at the expense of classmates. Tryouts mean someone makes the team, and someone goes home disappointed. Siblings compete for parental attention and approval. By the time we enter adulthood, the competitive paradigm feels natural. It feels like reality, but it is not the only reality. The second paradigm is lose-win. This is the doormat mindset. I will give in, I will surrender, I will let you have your way, peace at any price. People who operate from lose-win often appear generous, but they are not generous. They are afraid. They are afraid of conflict, afraid of rejection, afraid of standing up for themselves. So they capitulate. They say yes when they mean no. They bury their true feelings. They let others take advantage of them. Lose-win creates resentment. On the surface, everything seems fine, but underneath, anger simmers. The person who always gives in eventually explodes, or they become passive-aggressive, or they simply withdraw, emotionally absent even when physically present. Lose-win is not virtue, it is self-abandonment. The third paradigm is lose-lose. This happens when two win-lose people collide. Both are determined to win. Neither will back down, and so they destroy each other. If I cannot win, I will make sure you do not win either. This is revenge. This is spite. This is mutually assured destruction. It is tragically common in divorces, lawsuits, and family feuds. Everyone loses, and somehow that feels like victory. The fourth paradigm is win. This person does not necessarily want others to lose. They simply do not think about others at all. They focus exclusively on their own goals. What happens to you is irrelevant. This is pure selfishness, not malicious perhaps, but blind, and blindness has consequences. Now we arrive at the paradigm of highly effective people. Win-win. Win-win is not a technique. It is not a tactic. It is not a strategy you employ to manipulate better outcomes. Win-win is a philosophy of human interaction. It is the belief that there is enough for everyone. It is the commitment to seek solutions that benefit all parties. It is the understanding that your success and my success are not mutually exclusive. Win-win requires a fundamental shift in thinking. It requires moving from scarcity to abundance. The scarcity mentality says there is only so much money, only so much recognition, only so much love. If you get more, I get less. This mentality breeds competition, jealousy, and fear. The abundance mentality says there is plenty for everyone. Success is not a finite resource. Another person's victory does not diminish mine. In fact, when we work together, we can create more than either of us could alone. This mentality breeds collaboration, celebration, and generosity. Win-win is not soft. Do not confuse it with lose-win. Win-win requires courage. It requires you to express your needs clearly and honestly. It requires you to stand up for your interests. But it also requires consideration. It requires you to genuinely care about the other person's needs. It requires you to seek understanding before seeking agreement. The balance of courage and consideration is essential. High courage with low consideration produces win-lose. High consideration with low courage produces lose-win. Only when both are high do you achieve win-win. Here is a truth that transforms negotiations. Most conflicts are not about positions. They are about underlying interests. Positions are what people say they want. Interests are why they want it. When you focus on positions, you get stuck. My position versus your position. One must win, one must lose. But when you explore interests, new possibilities emerge. Let me give you an example. Two people are arguing over an orange. Each insists they need the whole orange. If we focus on positions, someone must compromise or lose. But if we ask why each person wants the orange, we might discover something. One person wants the juice to drink, the other wants the peel to bake with. Suddenly, both can have everything they need. This is the power of understanding interests. Win-win requires patience. It takes longer than win-lose. Dictating terms is faster than building consensus, but the results are worth the investment. When people feel that their needs were considered, they commit to the outcome. When people feel steamrolled, they resist. They sabotage. They comply only on the surface. Win-lose might win the battle. Win-win wins the war. There is another option that effective people keep in their pocket. It is called win-win or no deal. This means that if we cannot find a solution that benefits both of us, we agree to walk away. No hard feelings, no resentment, no forced compromise that leaves everyone dissatisfied. We simply acknowledge that this particular deal does not work for both parties, and we part ways with respect intact. Win-win or no deal is liberating. It removes the pressure to force an agreement. It allows you to be honest about your needs without fear. It protects relationships from bad deals. Sometimes the best agreement is no agreement. To live win-win, you must develop certain character traits. First, you must have integrity. You must be clear about your values and commitments. Second, you must have maturity. You must balance courage and consideration. Third, you must have an abundance mentality. You must truly believe that there is enough for everyone. Without these traits, win-win becomes just another technique. And techniques without character always fail. Win-win also requires building trust. Trust is the foundation of all effective relationships. Without trust, communication breaks down. Without trust, motives are questioned. Without trust, even good ideas are rejected. You build trust through consistent integrity, through keeping promises, through demonstrating genuine concern for others. This takes time. There are no shortcuts. As you move through the world, pay attention to your default paradigm. Notice when you slip into win-lose thinking. Notice when you surrender into lose-win. Catch yourself and consciously choose win-win. The most successful people are not those who defeat everyone around them. They are those who lift others while they rise. They are those who build networks of trust and mutual benefit. They are those who understand that in an interconnected world your success is linked to mine. Think win-win. Not because it is nice, because it works. Chapter 5. Seek first to understand the lost art of empathic listening. There is a communication crisis in our world, not because people are not talking. People are talking constantly. Social media, meetings, emails, phone calls, texts. We have never had more ways to communicate, and yet we have never understood each other less. The reason is simple. Most people do not listen to understand. They listen to reply. Think about your last difficult conversation. While the other person was speaking, what were you doing? Be honest. You were probably preparing your response. You were formulating your argument. You were waiting for them to finish so you could make your point. You were not truly listening. You were reloading. This is autobiographical listening. It means filtering everything you hear through your own experience, through your own frame of reference, through your own autobiography, and it destroys communication. There are several forms of autobiographical listening. The first is evaluating. You judge what the other person is saying, you agree or disagree, you assess whether they are right or wrong. You're not understanding, you're grading. The second is probing. You ask questions from your own frame of reference. These questions serve your agenda, not theirs. You are directing the conversation where you want it to go. You are not following where they need to go. The third is advising. You hear a small piece of the problem and immediately offer solutions. You assume you understand before you actually do. You prescribe without diagnosis. Imagine a doctor who wrote prescriptions before examining patients. You would call that malpractice. Yet we do it constantly in our relationships. The fourth is interpreting. You analyze the other person's motives. You explain their behavior to them. You tell them why they really feel the way they do. This is arrogance disguised as insight, and it makes people feel unseen. All four forms of autobiographical listening have something in common. They center you, your judgments, your questions, your advice, your interpretations. The other person becomes a supporting character in your story, and that is why they do not feel heard, because they are not being heard. Now consider a radically different approach, empathic listening. Empathic listening is not a technique. It is not a trick. It is not something you do to people. It is a genuine attempt to understand another human being, to see the world as they see it, to feel what they feel, to step inside their frame of reference. Empathic listening requires a fundamental shift. You must temporarily set aside your own autobiography. You must suspend judgment. You must resist the urge to fix, solve, or advise. You must simply be present with the other person. This is extraordinarily difficult and extraordinarily rare. When someone truly listens to you this way, you feel it immediately. You feel safe. You feel valued. You feel understood. And something remarkable happens. You open up. You share more deeply. You reveal what you really think and feel. Because you trust that this person is not going to judge you or fix you. They are simply going to understand you. This is why empathic listening is so powerful. It creates psychological safety. And psychological safety is the foundation of all meaningful communication. Here is a principle that will transform your relationships. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The order matters. Most people reverse it. They seek first to be understood. They push their own ideas. They argue their own position. And then they wonder why no one listens to them. If you want to influence someone, you must first understand them. You must understand their concerns. You must understand their fears. You must understand what they value and why. Only then can you present your ideas in a way that resonates. Only then can you speak their language. Think about this from a practical standpoint. A salesperson who does not understand the customer's needs will fail. A leader who does not understand the team's concerns will struggle. A parent who does not understand the child's world will face resistance. A spouse who does not understand their partner's heart will create distance. Understanding is not just nice. It is necessary. There is a diagnostic principle in medicine. First, diagnose. Then, prescribe. This seems obvious. But in relationships, we constantly violate it. We prescribe without diagnosis. We offer advice before we understand the problem. We push solutions that do not fit because we never took time to assess. Empathic listening is diagnosis. It is taking time to truly understand before you attempt to help. It is asking questions not to serve your agenda but to serve theirs. It is reflecting back what you hear to ensure you have it right. It is being comfortable with silence while they gather their thoughts. Let me give you some practical guidance. When someone shares a problem with you, resist the urge to immediately respond with advice. Instead, try reflecting their feelings. If they say, "I am so frustrated with my job," do not say, "You should update your resume." Instead, try, "It sounds like you are feeling really stuck and unhappy." This does two things. First, it shows them you heard not just their words but their emotion. Second, it invites them to go deeper. Often, the first thing people say is not the real issue. The real issue is underneath, and empathic listening helps them uncover it. Here is what most people do not understand. When people feel truly heard, they often solve their own problems. They do not need your advice. They need space to think out loud. They need a sounding board. They need someone who helps them access their own wisdom. Your listening is the gift, not your solutions. After you have genuinely understood someone, then you have earned the right to be understood. This is the second half of the principle, then to be understood. It is not enough to only listen. You also have thoughts, perspectives, ideas, and they deserve to be heard as well. But here is the key. When you seek first to understand, the other person becomes far more open to understanding you. When they feel heard, they lower their defenses. When they feel respected, they extend respect. When they trust your intentions, they trust your ideas. You have built a bridge. Now your ideas can cross it. Seeking first to understand takes courage. It takes courage because you might be changed. When you truly step into another person's perspective, you risk seeing something you missed. You risk discovering that you were wrong. You risk having your own views challenged. This is threatening, and yet it is also how we grow. The person who is never changed by listening has never truly listened. Real understanding is transformative. It expands your perspective. It reveals blind spots. It makes you wiser. In a world of increasing polarization, empathic listening is a revolutionary act. It cuts through the noise. It humanizes the other. It makes dialogue possible where only debate existed before. You cannot argue someone into agreement. But you can understand them into connection, and from connection, anything becomes possible. This week, practice empathic listening. Choose one conversation where you commit to fully understanding before responding. Notice your urge to interrupt, evaluate, advise, or interpret. Resist it. Simply listen. Reflect back what you hear. Ask gentle questions that serve their exploration. Watch what happens. You will discover something profound. The greatest gift you can give another human being is the gift of being truly seen. And in giving that gift, you receive one in return. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Chapter 6. Synergize. The power of creative cooperation. 1 + 1 = 2. This is simple mathematics. This is how the physical world works. But in the realm of human interaction, something different is possible. 1 + 1 can equal 3, or 10, or 100. This is synergy, and it is the highest expression of human effectiveness. Synergy means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It means that when people truly collaborate, they create outcomes that none of them could have produced alone. New ideas emerge, new solutions appear, new possibilities open that did not exist before the collaboration began. You have probably experienced synergy at some point in your life. Perhaps it was a conversation that took an unexpected turn. You started discussing something ordinary. And suddenly, ideas began flowing. One thought sparked another. Energy increased. Creativity exploded. By the end, you had arrived somewhere neither of you anticipated. Something new had been born. That experience is synergy. And it is available far more often than most people realize, but it requires certain conditions. It does not happen automatically. The foundation of synergy is everything we have discussed so far. You must be proactive. You must take responsibility for your contribution. You must begin with the end in mind. You must have clarity about your values and vision. You must put first things first. You must bring your best self to the collaboration. You must think win-win. You must genuinely want success for everyone involved. You must seek first to understand. You must value the perspectives of others. When all of these elements are present, synergy becomes possible. The enemy of synergy is sameness. When everyone in a room thinks the same way, there is nothing to combine. There is no creative tension. There is no spark. Sameness produces compromise at best, mediocrity at worst. Synergy requires difference. It requires people who see the world differently, who have different experiences, different skills, different perspectives. When these differences come together in an environment of trust and respect, magic happens. The differences become fuel for creativity rather than sources of conflict. This is counterintuitive for most people. Most people are threatened by difference. When someone sees things differently, we assume one of us must be wrong. We feel the need to defend our position, to prove we are right, to win the argument. But what if neither of us is wrong? What if we are both seeing part of a larger truth? What if your perspective and my perspective, combined, reveal something neither of us could see alone? This is the mindset that unlocks synergy. Think about human vision. Each of your eyes sees the world from a slightly different angle. These two different images are combined in your brain. The result is depth perception, something neither eye could produce alone. The difference between the two perspectives creates something new. Synergy works the same way. When we combine different perspectives, we gain depth. We see dimensions we could not see before. We understand complexities we missed. And from this richer understanding, better solutions emerge. But synergy requires more than just bringing different people together. It requires a certain kind of environment, an environment of psychological safety, where people feel free to share their real thoughts, where dissent is welcomed, not punished, where wild ideas are explored, not mocked. In most organizations, this environment does not exist. People say what they think others want to hear. They hold back their controversial ideas. They play it safe, and the organization loses access to its collective intelligence. Creating an environment for synergy requires leadership. It requires someone who models vulnerability, who admits they do not have all the answers, who genuinely invites different perspectives, who celebrates when someone challenges their thinking. This kind of leadership is rare, but when it exists, it transforms what is possible. Let me describe what synergy looks like in practice. Imagine a team facing a difficult problem. In a typical team, people advocate for their positions. Each person tries to convince the others. The discussion becomes a debate. Eventually, someone with more power or persistence wins. The others comply, but they are not committed. The solution is adequate but uninspired. Now imagine the same team operating synergistically. They begin by seeking to understand. Each person shares their perspective, and the others listen deeply. No one is trying to win. Everyone is trying to learn. As understanding deepens, something shifts. People start building on each other's ideas. Someone offers a thought, someone else extends it. A third person adds a dimension no one considered. The conversation takes on a life of its own. Energy rises, excitement builds, and eventually, a solution emerges that no one had when the meeting started. Everyone feels ownership because everyone contributed. The solution is not a compromise, it is a creation. This is what becomes possible when humans collaborate at the highest level. It is not easy, it is not efficient in the short term, but the results are extraordinary. There is a principle that governs synergistic communication. It is this. When you have two people who see things differently and both are committed to finding a better answer, the conditions for synergy are present. Notice the two requirements. First, different perspectives. Second, a shared commitment to finding the best answer, not winning. When both are present, transformation is possible. Synergy also applies to internal processes. You have different parts of yourself, logical and emotional, cautious and bold, practical and creative. Most people suppress parts of themselves. They over-identify with one aspect and reject the others. The logical person dismisses their emotions. The creative person ignores practical concerns. But the most effective people integrate all of themselves. They listen to their logic and their intuition. They honor their caution and their courage. They bring all of their internal resources to bear on challenges. This is internal synergy. And it produces a kind of wholeness that is powerful and rare. Valuing differences is easy to say and hard to do. It requires genuine humility. The humility to admit that your way of seeing the world is incomplete, that you have blind spots, that others might see something you cannot. It also requires genuine respect, not tolerance. Tolerance is condescending. Respect, the belief that the other person has value, has wisdom, has something to offer. When you approach another person with this kind of respect, they feel it, and they become more willing to share their best thinking. Synergy is not compromise. Compromise means everyone gives something up. Compromise means meeting in the middle. Compromise often leaves everyone partially dissatisfied. Synergy creates something new, something better than any of the original positions, something that did not exist before the interaction. Compromise is 1 + 1 = 1.5. Synergy is 1 + 1 = 10. To experience synergy, you must be willing to be changed. You must enter interactions open to the possibility that you will leave with different views than when you started. If you enter determined to hold your ground, synergy is impossible. You must be secure enough in yourself to let go of positions, secure enough to follow the truth wherever it leads. This brings us back to the private victories. Only a person with a strong internal foundation can be open in this way. Only someone who knows their values, who has a clear mission, who trusts themselves can handle the uncertainty of synergistic exploration. The insecure person clings to positions because positions feel like identity. The secure person holds positions loosely because their identity is rooted deeper. Synergy is available to you every day. In your workplace, in your family, in your community. Every interaction is an opportunity to transcend mere agreement and create something new. Look for it. Cultivate it. Welcome it. When you find yourself in a conversation that suddenly comes alive, do not shut it down. Follow it. See where it leads. You might discover something extraordinary. The most effective people are not those who have all the answers. They are those who know how to combine their partial answers with the partial answers of others. They are the orchestrators of synergy, and they accomplish things that seem impossible to everyone else. Synergize. Value the differences. Create what none of us could create alone. Chapter 7. Sharpen the saw. The principle of continuous renewal. Imagine a man in the forest. He is sawing down a tree. He has been at it for hours. He is exhausted, drenched in sweat, making painfully slow progress. You approach him and notice something. His saw is dull, so you ask him, "Why do not you stop and sharpen your saw?" He looks at you, frustrated, and says, "I do not have time to sharpen the saw. I am too busy sawing." This story captures how most people live. They are so consumed by the work that they never invest in the worker. They are so focused on production that they neglect their capacity to produce. They run themselves into the ground, and they wonder why everything feels so hard. Sharpening the saw is the habit of self-renewal. It is the principle of preserving and enhancing your greatest asset. That asset is you. You are the instrument of your own performance, your body, your mind, your heart, your spirit. These are the resources you bring to every challenge. These are the tools you use to create results. And like any tool, they require maintenance. Neglect yourself, and everything suffers. Your work suffers. Your relationships suffer. Your health suffers. Your happiness suffers. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Self-renewal operates in 4 dimensions: physical, mental, spiritual, social, and emotional. Each dimension is essential, and they are deeply interconnected. Neglect one, and the others eventually decline. Strengthen one, and the others benefit. Let us begin with the physical dimension. Your body is the foundation of everything. Without health, nothing else matters. With health, almost anything is possible. Physical renewal means caring for your body through exercise, nutrition, rest, and stress management. It means moving your body regularly. It means feeding yourself food that nourishes rather than depletes. It means sleeping enough to restore your energy. It means managing stress before it manages you. Most people know this, and yet most people neglect it. They say they do not have time to exercise. They grab fast food because it is convenient. They sacrifice sleep to squeeze in more work. They carry chronic stress as if it were a badge of honor. This is short-term thinking. It is borrowing from tomorrow to pay for today. And the interest rate is devastating. When you invest in your physical health, everything improves, your energy increases, your focus sharpens, your mood stabilizes, your resilience grows. You have more to give to your work and your relationships. You're not running on empty. The second dimension is mental. Your mind, like your body, requires exercise. It requires challenge, stimulation, growth. Mental renewal means continuing to learn. It means reading books that expand your thinking. It means exposing yourself to new ideas. It means developing new skills. It means engaging with subjects outside your comfort zone. Most people stop learning when formal education ends. They read only what is required for work. They consume entertainment but not enrichment. Their minds slowly atrophy. An unused mind becomes dull. A dull mind produces dull results. But a sharp mind sees opportunities others miss. A sharp mind solves problems others cannot. A sharp mind creates value everywhere it goes. Commit to lifelong learning. Set a goal to read regularly. Listen to content that challenges you. Take courses. Attend seminars. Engage with mentors. Your mind is a garden. Tend it. The third dimension is spiritual. This is the dimension of meaning and purpose. It is your connection to something larger than yourself. Spiritual renewal looks different for different people. For some, it is prayer and religious practice. For others, it is meditation and mindfulness. For others, it is time in nature. For others, it is engagement with great art, music, or literature. What matters is that you regularly reconnect with your deepest values. What matters is that you nourish your soul. The spiritual dimension is often the most neglected. We live in a culture that worships productivity. Taking time for reflection seems indulgent. Sitting in silence seems wasteful. But without spiritual renewal, you lose your way. You forget why you are doing what you are doing. You become disconnected from your mission. You achieve goals that no longer feel meaningful. The spiritual dimension provides the compass. It reminds you of your vision. It anchors you in your values. It gives you the clarity to know what matters and the courage to pursue it. The fourth dimension is social and emotional. This is the dimension of relationships and emotional intelligence. Humans are social creatures. We are wired for connection. We thrive in the context of loving relationships. We wither in isolation. Social and emotional renewal means investing in your relationships. It means spending quality time with people who matter to you. It means nurturing friendships. It means being present with your family. It means contributing to your community. It also means developing emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, the ability to empathize with others, the ability to navigate conflict constructively, the ability to communicate with clarity and compassion. Many people sacrifice relationships on the altar of achievement. They tell themselves they will connect with loved ones after the project is done, after the promotion, after retirement. But that day never comes, and they end up successful but alone. The deepest fulfillment comes from meaningful relationships. No achievement can substitute for love. No accomplishment can replace belonging. These 4 dimensions, physical, mental, spiritual, and social, are interconnected. Neglect your body and your mind suffers. Neglect your spirit and your relationships feel hollow. Neglect your relationships and your motivation wanes. They rise and fall together. This is why balanced renewal is essential. You cannot focus on one dimension and ignore the others. You must invest across all 4, not equally every day, but consistently over time. Here is the practical challenge. Sharpening the saw is a quadrant 2 activity. It is important, but not urgent. No one will force you to exercise. No one will mandate that you read. No one will schedule your spiritual practice. No one will insist that you connect with friends. These activities must be chosen. They must be prioritized. They must be protected. If you do not schedule time for renewal, it will not happen. The urgent will always crowd it out. You will always find something more pressing, until the day your body breaks down, until the day your mind stagnates, until the day your spirit feels empty, until the day your relationships collapse. The most effective people treat renewal as non-negotiable. They exercise even when busy. They read even when tired. They pray or meditate even when distracted. They connect with loved ones even when overwhelmed. They understand that renewal is not a reward for hard work. Renewal is what makes hard work sustainable. There is a concept called the upward spiral. When you invest in renewal, your capacity increases. With greater capacity, you produce better results. With better results, you gain confidence and opportunity. With confidence and opportunity, you are motivated to invest further in renewal, and the cycle continues upward. The opposite is also true. When you neglect renewal, your capacity decreases. With diminished capacity, your results suffer. With suffering results, you feel pressure to work harder. Working harder without renewal depletes you further, and the cycle spirals downward. You get to choose which spiral you ride. 1 hour of exercise does not take time from your day. It adds capacity to your day. 30 minutes of reading does not reduce your productivity. It expands your thinking. Time with loved ones does not distract from your mission. It fuels your motivation. Renewal is not selfish. It is strategic. It is the wisest investment you can make. This week, examine your life across all 4 dimensions. Where are you strong? Where are you neglecting yourself? Choose one small action in each dimension. Commit to it. Build the habit of sharpening your saw, because the world needs you at your best, and you cannot give your best if you are running on empty. Sharpen the saw, renew yourself, and watch your effectiveness multiply. Chapter 8. The Emotional Bank Account. Building the currency of trust. Every relationship you have operates like a bank account, not a financial bank account, an emotional one. And the balance in that account determines everything. Think about how a bank account works. You make deposits, you make withdrawals. When your balance is high, you have security, you have options, you have margin for error. When your balance is low, you are vulnerable, you are stressed. Every transaction feels risky. When your balance goes negative, you're in trouble. Your relationships work exactly the same way. Every interaction is either a deposit or a withdrawal. Deposits build trust. They create safety. They strengthen the connection. Withdrawals diminish trust. They create tension. They weaken the bond. When the emotional bank account is full, communication flows easily. You give each other the benefit of the doubt. Misunderstandings are quickly resolved. There is goodwill to draw upon when things get difficult. When the emotional bank account is empty, everything is hard. Every word is scrutinized. Every action is questioned. Small problems become major conflicts. Trust has evaporated, and with it, the relationship suffers. Most people do not think about relationships this way. They assume relationships just are what they are, good or bad, strong or weak. They do not realize that trust is built through accumulated deposits, and trust is destroyed through accumulated withdrawals. Understanding the emotional bank account changes how you approach every interaction. It makes you intentional. It makes you aware that every choice either strengthens or weakens your relationships. It gives you a framework for building the trust that makes everything else possible. So what constitutes a deposit? What actions build the emotional bank account? There are several, and each is powerful. The first deposit is understanding the individual. What matters to one person may not matter to another. A deposit for one person might be a withdrawal for someone else. You must understand what the other person values. What do they care about? What do they need? What makes them feel loved and respected? This requires attention. It requires listening. It requires setting aside your own assumptions and genuinely learning about the other person. When you take time to understand someone, they feel valued. And feeling valued is one of the deepest human needs. The second deposit is attending to the little things, small courtesies, kindnesses, acts of thoughtfulness. These may seem trivial, they are not. In relationships, the little things are the big things. Remembering a birthday, offering a genuine compliment, asking about something that matters to them, holding the door, saying thank you, following up on a conversation from last week. These small deposits accumulate. They signal that you care, that you pay attention, that the other person matters. Neglecting the little things is equally powerful. Forgetting commitments, being chronically late, showing indifference to their concerns. These small withdrawals also accumulate. They signal that you do not care, that you're not paying attention, that they do not matter. The third deposit is keeping commitments. When you make a promise, you create an expectation. When you keep that promise, you build trust. When you break that promise, you make a major withdrawal. This is why you must be careful about what you commit to. Do not make promises lightly. Do not overcommit. But when you do commit, follow through. Every kept commitment is a deposit. Every broken commitment is a significant withdrawal. Some people are careless with their words. They say they will do things they never intend to do. They make casual promises and then forget them. They do not realize the damage this causes, because the other person remembers. The other person was counting on them, and every broken promise erodes trust. The fourth deposit is clarifying expectations. Many conflicts arise from unclear expectations. You expected one thing, they expected another. Neither of you communicated clearly, and now there is disappointment and frustration. Taking time to clarify expectations prevents these withdrawals. What exactly are we agreeing to? What does success look like? What are the responsibilities of each person? When will this be done? These conversations may feel tedious in the moment, but they prevent far greater problems later. Unclear expectations are a setup for disappointment. Clear expectations create alignment and trust. The fifth deposit is showing personal integrity. Integrity means being the same person in every situation. It means your private behavior matches your public behavior. It means you do what is right even when no one is watching. Integrity also means being loyal to those who are not present. How do you talk about others when they are not in the room? If you gossip about someone to me, I know you will gossip about me to someone else. If you defend someone who is absent, I know you will defend me when I am absent. Integrity builds trust because it creates predictability. People know what to expect from you. They know you will not change based on who is watching. They know your word means something. The sixth deposit is apologizing sincerely when you make a withdrawal. You will make withdrawals. You will hurt people you care about. You will fail to meet expectations. You will say things you regret. This is inevitable. What matters is what you do next. A sincere apology is a deposit. It acknowledges the harm. It takes responsibility. It expresses genuine regret. It commits to different behavior. An insincere apology is another withdrawal. I am sorry you feel that way is not an apology. I am sorry, but you have to understand is not an apology. These are deflections disguised as apologies. They make things worse. A real apology requires vulnerability. It requires admitting you were wrong. It requires no excuses. This is hard for the ego, but it is essential for the relationship. Now let us talk about withdrawals. What actions deplete the emotional bank account? The opposite of every deposit is a withdrawal. Failing to understand, neglecting small courtesies, breaking commitments, leaving expectations unclear, acting without integrity, refusing to apologize. Each of these drains the account. But there are other withdrawals worth naming. Criticism, contempt, defensiveness, Stonewalling. These 4 behaviors are particularly destructive. Research has shown they can predict the failure of relationships with remarkable accuracy. Constant criticism attacks the other person's character. Contempt communicates disgust and superiority. Defensiveness refuses to take responsibility. Stonewalling shuts down communication entirely. These are major withdrawals. If they become patterns, the relationship will eventually collapse. Here is a crucial insight. The size of a deposit or withdrawal is determined by the other person, not by you. You do not get to decide what matters to them. You do not get to dismiss their feelings because you would not feel that way. If it is a withdrawal to them, it is a withdrawal. Period. This requires humility. It requires accepting that your impact matters more than your intent. It requires letting go of the phrase, "That is not what I meant." What you meant is irrelevant if the effect was hurtful. Some relationships in your life have low balances. Trust has eroded over time. Communication is strained. Every interaction feels tense. These relationships can be rebuilt, but it takes time. It takes consistent deposits. It takes patience. You cannot make one large deposit and expect everything to be fixed. Trust is built slowly. You must show up again and again. You must demonstrate through sustained action that you are trustworthy. And here is the hard part. When the account is overdrawn, your deposits will initially be met with suspicion. The other person has been hurt. They are protecting themselves. They will test you. This is not the time to give up. This is the time to persist. Keep making deposits. Keep showing up. Eventually the balance will shift. Trust will begin to rebuild. Your most important relationships deserve investment. Your spouse, your children, your closest friends, your key colleagues. These relationships are the foundation of a meaningful life. Do not take them for granted. Do not assume the balance is fine because there has not been a crisis. Actively invest. Make deposits every day. Small and consistent beats large and occasional. A daily kind word matters more than an annual grand gesture. Presence matters more than presence. Attention matters more than intention. The emotional bank account is always open. Every interaction makes a transaction. You're either building trust or depleting it. There is no neutral. Choose wisely, invest generously, and watch your relationships transform. Chapter 9. The Power of Paradigms. How you see determines what you do. 2 people witness the same event. One sees a crisis, the other sees an opportunity. 2 people receive the same feedback. One feels attacked, the other feels grateful. 2 people face the same obstacle. One gives up, the other presses forward. What explains the difference? It is not the event itself. It is how they see the event. It is their paradigm. A paradigm is a mental map. It is the lens through which you view the world. It shapes what you notice and what you ignore. It determines what you believe is possible. It influences every decision you make. Here is the crucial insight. The map is not the territory. Your mental map of reality is not reality itself. It is an interpretation, a construction, a story you have built over time, and if your map is inaccurate, no amount of effort will get you where you want to go. You can work harder. You can run faster. You can be more determined. But if you're using the wrong map, you will simply arrive at the wrong destination more quickly. Imagine you're trying to navigate Chicago, but you have been given a map of Detroit. No matter how positive your attitude, you will not find your way. No matter how hard you try, you will remain lost. The problem is not your behavior. The problem is your map. This is why paradigms matter more than techniques. Most self-improvement focuses on behavior. Do this, stop doing that, try harder, be more disciplined. But behavior flows from paradigms. How you see determines what you do. If you see yourself as a victim, you will behave like a victim. If you see others as threats, you will treat them defensively. If you see the world as scarce, you will hoard and compete. No amount of behavioral modification will change this. You must change how you see. The most profound changes in life come from paradigm shifts. A paradigm shift is a fundamental change in how you perceive something. It is like putting on a new pair of glasses. Suddenly everything looks different. Think about a time when your perception of someone changed dramatically. Perhaps you judged someone harshly. Then you learned something about their circumstances, their struggles, their history, their pain, and in an instant your judgment transformed into compassion. The person did not change. Your paradigm changed, and everything shifted. This is the power available to you in every moment. You can choose to examine your paradigms. You can question whether your map is accurate. You can open yourself to seeing things differently. Most people resist this. They are deeply attached to their paradigms. Their paradigms feel like reality, not interpretation. They cannot imagine seeing things any other way. This attachment is dangerous. It keeps you stuck. It prevents growth. It makes you defensive when challenged. It blinds you to possibilities that are right in front of you. The most effective people hold their paradigms loosely. They know that their current way of seeing is incomplete. They actively seek different perspectives. They welcome information that challenges their assumptions. They are learners, not defenders. There is a deeper layer to explore here. Where do paradigms come from? You were not born with them, they were formed. Your paradigms were shaped by your family, by your culture, by your education, by your experiences, by the media you consumed, by the people you surrounded yourself with. Every influence in your life contributed to your mental maps. This means your paradigms are largely inherited. You did not consciously choose most of them. They were absorbed. They seeped in without your awareness. This is both humbling and liberating. Humbling because you realize how much of your thinking is not truly yours. Liberating because you realize you can examine and change it. The first step to shifting paradigms is awareness. You must become conscious of the paradigms you hold. You must surface the assumptions that operate beneath your thoughts and actions. This requires reflection. It requires asking yourself difficult questions. Why do I see this situation this way? What am I assuming that might not be true? What would someone with a completely different background see here? It also requires feedback. Other people can see your blind spots. They operate from different paradigms. Their perspective can reveal what yours conceals. This is why diversity is so valuable. Not just diversity of demographics, but diversity of thought. When you surround yourself only with people who see like you, your paradigms are never challenged. When you engage with people who see differently, you have the opportunity to grow. Let me share a paradigm that is particularly important. It is the paradigm of character versus personality. For much of the last century, success literature focused on personality, techniques, image, attitudes, behaviors, skills, how to appear confident, how to influence people, how to make a good impression. This is the personality ethic, and it is superficial. Before that, for nearly 200 years, success literature focused on character. Integrity, humility, courage, justice, patience, industry, simplicity. These are principles that govern human effectiveness. This is the character ethic. And it is foundational. The personality ethic treats success as a function of image and technique. The character ethic treats success as a function of who you are. Here is the problem with the personality ethic. It works in the short term. You can manipulate. You can impress. You can perform. But over time, character is revealed. People see through the facade, trust erodes, relationships fail. The character ethic works in the long term. When you're genuinely trustworthy, people trust you. When you're genuinely competent, results follow. When you're genuinely caring, relationships flourish. This is a paradigm shift that changes everything. Instead of asking, how can I appear successful, you ask, how can I become the kind of person who deserves success? Instead of focusing on techniques, you focus on principles. Instead of managing impressions, you develop character. There is another paradigm worth examining. It is the paradigm of inside out versus outside in. Most people live outside in. They believe that external changes will produce internal results. If I get the promotion, I will feel successful. If I find the right partner, I will feel loved. If I acquire enough money, I will feel secure. This paradigm keeps people perpetually chasing. External conditions never fully satisfy. There is always something more to acquire, and the internal fulfillment never arrives. The inside-out paradigm reverses this. It says that internal changes produce external results. When I develop my character, success follows. When I learn to love, I attract love. When I cultivate inner security, external security becomes less urgent. This paradigm puts you in control. You're no longer waiting for the world to change. You're changing yourself, and the world responds. Paradigm shifts do not happen easily. They require a willingness to be uncomfortable. They require letting go of certainties. They require intellectual humility, but they are the key to transformation. If you want different results, you need different actions. If you want different actions, you need different paradigms. Change begins with how you see. This week, examine one area of your life where you feel stuck. Ask yourself, what am I assuming here? How am I seeing this situation? Consider that your paradigm might be incomplete. Seek out a different perspective. Be willing to see differently. Because when you change how you see, you change what you do. And when you change what you do, you change your results. And when you change your results, you change your life. The map is not the territory, but you can always get a better map. Chapter 10. The Maturity Continuum. From dependence to interdependence, there is a journey every human being is meant to take. It is a journey of growth, a journey of maturation, a journey from weakness to strength. And most people never complete it. This journey moves through 3 stages. Each stage represents a different level of effectiveness. Each stage reflects a different relationship with yourself and others. Understanding these stages will help you see where you are, and more importantly, where you need to go. The first stage is dependence. Dependence is the paradigm of you. You take care of me. You are responsible for my results. You did this to me. You let me down. Dependence is where we all begin. As infants, we are completely dependent. We cannot feed ourselves. We cannot protect ourselves. We cannot survive alone. This dependence is appropriate for that stage of life. But some people never leave dependence. They grow up physically, but not emotionally. They still need others to take care of them. They still blame others for their problems. They still wait for someone else to fix their lives. The dependent person relies on others for their sense of worth. They need approval to feel valuable. They need recognition to feel significant. They need validation to feel secure. Without external affirmation, they collapse. The dependent person also relies on others for results. If something goes wrong, it is someone else's fault. If success does not come, someone else is to blame. They are perpetual victims of circumstance. Dependence is a prison. It hands the keys of your life to others. It makes your happiness contingent on external factors you cannot control. It keeps you small and powerless. The second stage is independence. Independence is the paradigm of I. I can do it. I am responsible. I am self-reliant. I can choose my own path. Independence is a massive step forward. The independent person has taken ownership of their life. They do not blame others. They do not wait for permission. They do not need constant approval. They stand on their own 2 feet. The first 3 principles we discussed are about achieving independence. Being proactive means taking responsibility for your choices. Beginning with the end in mind means defining your own vision. Putting first things first means executing on your own priorities. These are the private victories. They free you from dependence. Independence is celebrated in our culture. We admire the self-made individual. We respect the person who needs no one. We praise the lone achiever who conquers obstacles alone. And independence is valuable. It is an essential stage of development. You must become independent before you can move further. You must be able to stand alone before you can truly stand with others. But here is what most people miss. Independence is not the final destination. It is not the highest level of effectiveness. It is a necessary stage, but it is not the ultimate stage. There is a third stage that transcends independence. It is called interdependence. Interdependence is the paradigm of we. We can do it together. We can combine our talents. We can achieve more than any of us could alone. Interdependence is not dependence wearing a mask. A dependent person who teams up with others is still dependent. They are using the group to meet their needs. They are taking, not contributing. True interdependence is only possible for independent people. It requires that you are already whole, that you do not need others to complete you, that you choose to work with others from a position of strength, not weakness. Interdependence recognizes a fundamental truth. We live in an interconnected world. The most significant achievements require collaboration. The deepest relationships require mutual investment. The greatest contributions come from combined efforts. The independent person can achieve, but the interdependent person can achieve far more. Because they can access the strengths of others, because they can leverage relationships, because they can create synergy. The principles we discussed in the second half of this audiobook are about achieving interdependence. Thinking win-win means approaching relationships with mutual benefit in mind. Seeking first to understand means valuing others deeply enough to listen. Synergizing means combining differences to create something greater. These are the public victories. They take you beyond independence into the realm of powerful collaboration. Many people fear interdependence. They mistake it for dependence. They think that needing others is weakness, so they isolate themselves in their independence. They achieve, but they achieve alone. They succeed, but their success feels hollow. The truly effective person has moved through all three stages. They were once dependent. They developed into independence, and then they chose interdependence. Notice that interdependence is a choice. The independent person can choose to remain independent. They can go it alone. They can protect their autonomy. But they sacrifice the greater possibilities that come from working with others. The interdependent person chooses to open themselves. They choose to trust. They choose to collaborate. They choose to be vulnerable, not because they have to, because they recognize the value. This is the maturity continuum. Dependence, independence, interdependence. Each stage builds on the one before. You cannot skip stages. You must do the work at each level. If you try to be interdependent before you are independent, you will fail. You will bring your neediness into relationships. You will drain others rather than contribute. You will create codependence, not interdependence. The foundation must be solid. You must first win the private victories. You must take responsibility for your life. You must clarify your vision. You must master your priorities. Only then can you truly engage in public victories. Here is a practical way to think about this. In any situation, ask yourself, am I operating from dependence, independence, or interdependence? If you are blaming others, you are independence. If you are going it alone when collaboration would serve better, you are stuck in independence. If you are combining strengths with others toward shared goals, you are in interdependence. The goal is not to eliminate independence. Independence remains important. You must maintain your sense of self. You must continue to take responsibility. You must preserve your ability to function alone when necessary. But independence is not enough for a truly effective life. The challenges we face today are too complex for lone individuals. The opportunities available today require teams and partnerships. The fulfillment we seek comes largely through meaningful connection. Interdependence is the paradigm of effective leaders. Effective leaders do not try to do everything themselves. They build teams. They develop others. They create environments where people can contribute their best. They understand that their success is measured not by what they achieve alone, but by what they enable others to achieve. Interdependence is also the paradigm of effective families. Healthy families are not collections of isolated individuals. They are systems of mutual support. Each person contributes. Each person receives. There is give and take. There is shared purpose. There is something greater than any individual member. As you reflect on your own life, consider where you stand on the continuum. Are there areas where you remain stuck in dependence, where you blame others or wait for rescue? Are there areas where you are stuck in independence, where you refuse help, where you isolate, where you insist on doing everything yourself? Are there areas where you have achieved true interdependence, where you collaborate effectively, where you give and receive freely, where the whole exceeds the sum of the parts? Growth is always possible. No matter where you are today, you can move forward. You can shed remaining dependence. You can transcend limiting independence. You can step into powerful interdependence. This is the journey of a lifetime. It is not completed in a day. It is not finished with a single decision. It is a continual process of growth. But understanding the destination helps you navigate. Knowing where you are going gives purpose to every step. You are made for more than dependence. You are made for more than isolation. You are made for connection, collaboration, and contribution. Move through the continuum, develop your independence, then choose interdependence, and discover what becomes possible when we work together. You have now heard principles that can transform your life. Not tips, not tricks, not shortcuts. Principles. Timeless truths that govern human effectiveness. Let us remember what you have learned. You learned that you are responsible for your life, that between stimulus and response you have the power to choose. You learned to begin with the end in mind, to define your vision before the world defines it for you. You learned to put first things first, to focus on what matters most, not merely what screams loudest. You learned to think win-win, to approach every relationship seeking mutual benefit. You learned to seek first to understand, to listen deeply before demanding to be heard. You learn to synergize, to combine differences into creative outcomes no one could achieve alone. You learn to sharpen the saw, to invest in your own renewal across body, mind, heart, and spirit. You learned about the emotional bank account, about how trust is built through consistent deposits. You learned about paradigms, about how changing the way you see changes everything you do, and you learned about the maturity continuum, about the journey from dependence through independence to interdependence. Knowledge without action is worthless. You can listen to this audiobook 100 times, but if you do not apply what you have heard, nothing will change. So here is your challenge. Choose one principle, just one, and commit to practicing it this week. Not perfectly, not completely, just intentionally. Start small, start today, start now. Write your personal mission statement. Have a conversation where you only seek to understand. Make a deposit in a relationship that matters. Schedule your quadrant 2 priorities before anything else. Small actions repeated consistently create massive transformation. You do not need to change everything at once. You need to change one thing and keep changing it. If this audiobook has impacted you, do something with that impact. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss what comes next. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling us which principle resonated most deeply. Your life is not yet written. The next chapter is blank, and you hold the pen. Go live effectively. Go make a difference. Go become the person you were meant to be. This is not the end. This is the beginning.